Or actually, let me connect it to the to Facebook really quick. Then we get started. So, like a lot of people, still learning how to navigate this new virtual reality while we are all dealing with a lot of different realities. All right. Okay, sorry, y'all. Still asking me for one more thing to connect this to Zoom to Facebook. All right, so it is actually not connecting. So we're just gonna be on Zoom and we'll share this video later. So just wanna thank everybody for signing in and joining us this evening. Tonight's conversation is called COVID-19 in East Oakland. So my name is Rashid Shabazz, currently the coordinator for Oakland Voices. Oakland Voices is a program of the Maynard Institute for Journalism Education, and it focuses on diversifying the newsrooms in the United States, as well as providing training opportunities for journalists of color. And Oakland Voices is one of the flagship programs. It's a training program, a 9-month fellowship focused on training residents of Oakland. In the past, primarily it's been East Oakland, but over the last year it's expanded. But training folks in storytelling skills in order to change the narratives that exist about our communities. And so we've been doing a lot of different reporting, particularly since the pandemic of the coronavirus or COVID-19. And one of the people and one of the organizations that we constantly see on the ground doing different work is is the East Oakland Collective. And so we wanted to find a way to elevate the work that they're doing and also have a conversation about what's been taking place in Oakland and in particularly in East Oakland. So as I think most folks on this call here know, a few weeks ago, we shared a map produced by Alameda County, the public health department, which showed where in Oakland the coronavirus cases were by zip code. And 2/3 of the cases were in the flatlands of East Oakland. One area near High Street, folks may know that was a senior home or a nursing home, Excel over on High Street. But still, most of the cases are in the flatlands of East Oakland. And so the intention tonight was to have a conversation about that and also learn from Candace with the East Oakland Collective about some of the work that they've been doing on the ground. And so I want to just briefly introduce Candace, and then we can get into this conversation. And so Candace Elder was raised in East Oakland and attended Oakland Public Schools. She's the founder and the executive director of the East Oakland Collective, which is an organization, a grassroots organization focused on mobilizing and organizing millennials in East Oakland. She has a background in law, philanthropy, and nonprofit management. In 2016, Candace founded East Oakland Collective to drive racial and economic equity in East Oakland. It was the long-stemming disinvestment and the lack of resources in East Oakland that compelled her to start this organization. And it's a membership-based grassroots organization, which is focused on harnessing the collective power of millennials. And so when I first met Candace, she was involved with the Museum of African Diaspora, really invigorating the Vanguard program, getting younger people involved with the museum, and also the Cal Alumni Club, or particularly the Black Alumni Club at UC Berkeley, which she's also alumni of. So without any further introduction, please welcome Candace Elder.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So just starting off, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm in good health and good spirits, and so is my friends and my family and colleagues. So no complaints there. So
yeah, right on. And how are you making sense of everything that's just been taking place? I can only imagine that each day is a new challenge, a new issue, or maybe it's more of the same.
I mean, the first 30, 45 days of the pandemic was nuts. And for my work, I'm counting it as like March 1st, around that time, really, when the shelter in place orders came down, and then we really saw how much our people were really impacted, and we saw the disparity and resources all the way to the widened food insecurity. So for the first 30, 45 days, I would say, 45 days period, I was working every day. And we were slinging food all across Oakland. We were, onboarding with being official homeless outreach providers with Alameda County, and trying to get sanitation units. We were trying to move single Black unhoused mothers in tiny homes across the city. We were doing a lot while still trying to hold the city accountable for not evicting people from encampments, or really also what people term it as, they call it as sweeps, encampment sweeps. So we were working really against the clock, and continuously putting ourselves at risk. Things are still about the same, and I know we'll get into this, kind of like diving into that, but as personally and organization wise, we found a balance. Now we have set distribution days. We figured out how to handle a small handful of dedicated and volunteers. We actually got more PPE, personal protective equipment, for our staff and for our volunteers. And we have a better and a more steady flow of supplies and food coming in, so that we can make more impact, across Oakland. Because since the onset of COVID-19, we expanded, our services and our service space.
Wow, yeah. Now that's a great point to kind of go back a little bit. Can you just talk a little bit about East Oakland Collective, how it started, and some of the work that you're involved in?
So East Oakland Collective, we are a young organization. We are 4.5 years in existence. We are a small and mighty org, full-time staff of 2, and over 100 members, primarily Black residents of East Oakland, Black residents of Oakland, Black residents who've been pushed out or moved out of Oakland. And then of course, some of our our brown brothers and sisters, and then our allies, who are good at taking a back seat to Black leadership. and we focus on racial and economic equity work. And to us, that is civic engagement and leadership, economic empowerment. And we actually added homelessness services and solutions, and we do advocacy policy and housing justice work. And we added that, really at the height of the homelessness, the rise in homelessness in Oakland, which is like the 2017 mark. And we did not plan on doing kind of like the advocacy organizing and work. We just started off simple as we just want to feed the people. We very much subscribe to the Black Panther Party, 10-point plan, and how they moved and operated, how we take care of ourselves. We don't rely on the government, and we don't wait on anyone else to do it either. So we started as simple as feeding people, and then it just blossomed into, propelling us as to being one of the go-to organizations to advocate, on behalf of Black unhoused folks, and Black East Oakland residents, and also all unhoused folks across Oakland as well. And I think we became really popular because of our niche of being millennial led. Our membership is not all millennials, but really cultivating this new wave of leadership, because we are it. We either next or we are already in leadership right now. And then also, reaching back and building this new wave of leadership. Because sometimes we're tired of seeing the same people doing the same things and being in the same seats for like 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So we came in like, it's time for y'all to move over, and make way for like new ideas, because we hungry out here in East Oakland, and we don't want East Oakland to be taken right from underneath of us, because gentrification and displacement is looming. Of course, we already see it creeping into our neighborhoods. So we are telling all the powers that be that you can't set foot in East Oakland until you talk to the community, until you engage in an equitable and respectful way that honors the history, the culture, and the folks, the long-time natives, who some of us are still here, some of us still got our grandparents' house, our uncles still live over there, et cetera, et cetera. And like, we are still here. So we're really trying to preserve that and bring in more resources into the community. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of like all the work that EOC was doing before COVID and still is.
Yeah, wow, thank you. Just a follow-up question. You mentioned just coming on the scene, being a young organization with a lot of younger people, and people being, let's say, in power or positions for some time. How challenging was it, coming in with some people that may or may not be considered more established? Or I guess, one way of asking this, what was some of the reaction to some of the folks who maybe been around for a while?
We actually got a good welcome from some of the older leadership. I think at first they're like, oh my God, you guys are, the young folks we have been looking for. And mind you, millennials is a long age range, so we're not that young, but right. But we all like mid 30s and plus and over. But so they're like, oh, we are the new leadership that we've been waiting for. Oh, now I can retire, let you guys have it. But when you start making waves, when you start making a big name for yourself, then that's when people kind of change their tune. And now I felt like there's some folks started to see us as a threat, to their position, their power. So it's been interesting trying to navigate that. But when it comes to actually doing the work, we don't let all that stupid stuff, stop us. We're able to put that stuff to the side, and sometimes we don't have to like each other, but we have to do the work. And if you're doing good work, we are willing to work with you. And then also you know, and we do pay respect to our ancestors who paved the way, and also the current leaders who, you know, are still alive and are still holding positions who have also paved the way. So I think we're doing a good job at trying to navigate all the different elements of forces that be, and trying to unite instead of like tear each other apart, you know, when people start fighting over resources and money and power. So
Yeah. And it's East Oakland Collective. It's not just Oakland Collective. And you mentioned that since COVID-19, you've been expanding. But why was it important for you all to do something specifically focused on East Oakland?
Oh, because we are from East Oakland. All EOC leadership is born and raised in East Oakland. So, you know, and we still live in East Oakland. Keita Price and I, the two full-time staff members, you know, we live in District 7. Our office is in District 6. You know, it was really important for us to, you know, have an office in East Oakland, and deep East Oakland in particular, because we have to make that distinction, you know, because we see a lot of resources going into Fruitvale, you know, but that's where the buck stops, you know. So where folks are worried about like Fruitvale and making sure Fruitvale doesn't get gentrified, you know, and stuff like that, there's a gap in resources for us, High Street on to the San Leandro border. I know it's debatable where exactly it
Deep East Oakland starts and ends.
Yeah, where the Deep East starts and ends. But from a resource perspective, we count from High Street to the San Leandro border, and from the 580 below the 580 on, you know, so incorporating all the flatlands who are ignored. And then also it's still the largest area of Oakland where you'll still find Black folks left. And it's also the largest area of Oakland where we still have a foothold on property, and where we still might even have the opportunity to keep that foothold in property. But we got to get ahead of this curve of course, gentrification and speculation, and then, you know, opportunity zones, and like, you know, so it's really all eyes on really deep East Oakland. So we got to do what we have to do from a people end, you know, to make sure that we're still here.
Yeah, thank you, Candace. So I want to begin to shift towards talking about COVID-19 particularly, but I just really want to hone in on this point about Black millennials or millennials. Like, why is it so important for you all to engage younger people?
I think millennials, I know a lot of people say, you know, a lot of older folks say what they want about millennials, but we are a very creative, very innovative age group, you know, and I think we are looking for ways to make impact, you know. So it's just not okay for a lot of us to go about our daily lives, you know, and not do something for our people, to not do something for our community. So it's just a lot of us don't know how to and what to kind of put our energy towards, you know. So EOC gives folks a platform to do something, whether it's, you know, you can do a little bit or you can do a lot, you know. So that has really resonated with millennials. It's even been attractive to younger age groups, and it's been attractive to older groups. Actually, you know, there's few of our members who are well into their 40s, 50s, you know, and then of course, you know, our young folks under 30. So it's, you know, and they can kind of see some folks want something to do. They hungry.
Yeah.
So we're giving them something to do.
That's awesome. So I want to get into sort of the topic for this evening, and that's COVID-19 in East Oakland. How has COVID-19 impacted East Oakland?
So what we see is deeper, for one, deeper food insecurity. And that is, we see more folks struggling to have fresh access to food. Panic buying didn't help our communities at all. You know, so we see, whether from our folks who are unhoused all the way to our seniors who are sheltering in place and shouldn't leave the house or can't leave the house, having an increased need for food. So we're working to address that by pushing out 1,000 meals a week, and we're glad to see that also, you know, so many other organizations are doing it, are starting to do it as well, because it's definitely going to take all of us to really address food insecurity and hunger, you know. And what we're seeing is a lot of our seniors, there's a lot of I think East Oakland does have a high number of like the senior age range. And a lot of them are single individuals, you know, so and their family might be busy. So we actually expanded our services to address food insecurity with seniors, and we give them, you know, front door service. So we do drop-offs to their residents. You know, we're getting a lot of calls from the senior independent centers and hospitals and social workers, therapists, you know, referring their clients, particularly their seniors, their low income families, you know, and single parent households, or multi-generational households, where like the grandchildren are there, and how much the food insecurity has widened. You know, we've seen also, of course, a widened economic hardship, you know, on our families. You know, we were already struggling before COVID-19, so COVID-19 just exacerbated that economic impact, because on one hand, either some of us are not working, we were either terminated, furloughed, you know, or are working from home, hours reduced, which has impacted our families, all the way to we make up a large chunk of the essential worker class, you know, and we have to go to work, and then we're also putting our families at risk because we have to, you know, we have to leave outside the house, you know, because we are essential workers. So really seeing like different ways when it comes to the economic impact in terms of on our families and on our individuals. And then of course for the unhoused population, and you know, we see that there are a lot of curbside communities in East Oakland, not as many big ones as there used to be, because the city shut most of them down, which kind of spread people out to pockets across East Oakland. So as you drive through East Oakland, you'll see there might be 2 people over here, 1 person on the railroad tracks over there. So we're more spread out. We're not in large congregate settings anymore, our unhoused folks in East Oakland. But that also leaves access to sanitation very problematic. So the city is not going to put down a portable toilet for just like 1 person. You know, they're going to go to the spot where there's 10 people living together over that with 1 person. So that leaves a lot of people without access to sanitation, you know. And then that, to state it clearly, is the portable toilets and the hand washing stations. So at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, we're scrambling and we're worried about an outbreak, you know, in the curbside communities, because, you know, how can you wash your hands if you don't have water, if you don't have a sink, you don't even have a bucket, you know? How can you really protect yourself against COVID if you don't have masks, if you don't have hand sanitizer, you know? So really seeing the disparity in and access to resources, you know. And then of course we can go on and on about, you know, like we're seeing overall, what we're seeing with COVID-19 is long stemming, you know, inequities just blown in our face, you know. So with access to healthcare, which COVID-19 meant access to testing, you know, so a lot of our own house folks on the street didn't get tested. So the minute that somebody gets sick in East Oakland who's on house, goes to Highland Hospital, that's when they're like, oh shit, you know, now we got to do contact tracing and test everybody. And then it's like, oh, double shit, you know, because now we discovered 8 cases, which just happened 2 weeks ago. You know, and I had to get tested because I was just down there, you know, in this East Oakland area, serving the people. And I'm like, okay, well, I could have possibly exposed myself, which is just, you know, a risk I take with the simple work that I do. But I was like, let me be proactive. I didn't have any symptoms, but I was like, let me just be proactive and get tested. And then, hey, I might as well just keep getting tested every so often, just for good measure. But, you know, that was kind of scary times a little bit. And then it was also, I was fearful for my unhoused family, and encouraging more folks, the more folks that get tested, the better we are. So we can quarantine and isolate and do everything, or do our steps that we need to do and get the information, you know, out. And, you know, one thing that I really bothers me about when people like, it's been on social media, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but every time, like, a lot of commentary about the stats in East Oakland, the comments have been, well, y'all out on the corner with no mask on, where you're doing sideshows, and the whole sideshow issue is a whole nother webinar in itself, because it's really not Black folks, and it's not Oakland Black folks really out doing the sideshows. There's folks from other cities, whatever, coming in.
Them Alameda people.
Yeah, Alameda, San Jose. You know, you would look like crowd pick. Black, I'm sorry to say there's one thing about sideshows. The sideshows I used to go to were nothing but Black folks. I don't know what the heck they got doing now. But
the sideshow's been gentrified since.
The sideshow they have, right?
Wow.
You know, but we get blamed for it. But we get blamed, you know, for any aftermath of a sideshow. But we're not really there like that. So
yeah, I want to come back to that in like some of the discourse, the conversation around this. But I wanted to first just hone in on something you said. So there was a story at the end of April about one individual at a curbside community or homeless encampment being tested positive for coronavirus. Are you saying there were 8 people that or what was the 8 people that you mentioned?
Yeah, so they start off with one positive COVID case in deep East Oakland, according to my boundaries, and then everyone had to, or most of the people got tested in the area. So there's now 8 positive cases in that one area. We're talking about like 2 to 3 block radius. So some of those folks are in quarantine at the Comfort by the airport. Some folks have been moved to the Radisson. I think one person is still hospitalized, and then some people are just quarantining in place. But that led to the ramping up of testing. So the unhoused folks were being ignored for testing, you know. And then now they're not being ignored. And there's also positive cases in West Oakland with unhoused communities. And I believe there's like 39 to 40 deaths across the county of unhoused folks. But we don't have the numbers on the cities. So.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey. You know, we were on that other call, I guess 2 weeks ago or whatever, talking about some of this. But, you know, initially the county told me they're not giving city level data. And then they got pushed, I'm assuming, and then we're doing some push with the folks that they had been outsourcing some of the testing to, and then they began to report city level and then eventually race data, and then it got to the zip code level. As of yesterday, there have been 74 deaths in Alameda County, and but the dashboard that they have, it doesn't break that out by folks who may be experiencing homelessness. They do list the total number of cases of people who are, quote, known homeless, and then there's some people, which is 26.
There's a whole bunch of people, right, that are like, I guess the data's not in as far as like race and.
Yeah. Then when you get to the race, there's a whole group of people they just didn't apparently track what the groups were. They're just listed as unknown. And so what's interesting, when you take out all of the folks who, yesterday I did some calculations, and so of all of the folks, 35% of all of the folks in Alameda County that have COVID-19 are Latino, and then followed by 14 white and 14 Asian, and then it's 10% Black. But that doesn't include this 430 of the unknown folks who wasn't tracked or whatever the case may be. If you just amongst the folks that are known, then it becomes 45% Latino. And so that seems to be the largest group impacted. But then when you look at deaths, there's like similar sort of numbers. But then when you consider the number of the population, this is why folks are saying Black people being disproportionately impacted. We're like 6% of the population in California, but then this percentage, et cetera. But yeah, to your point with the data is still so much that we just don't know from the information that's provided. And I don't know how much information is available versus what's being shared publicly at this point.
Well, definitely some of the data I gave you is not being shared publicly.
Right.
And the county is still trying to kind of still figure out how much can they share, so yeah, and I'm still very cautious about how much I can share without violating some HIPAA law, or just not even putting people in harm's way. If you find out there's 8 unhoused folks who are positive right next to your house or something like that, then
right.
you put that information in the hands of the wrong person. You don't know what their response is going to be, so don't want to cause any undue harm to folks.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to your point about some of the narrative that rises. So when people hear East Oakland, like I literally have like a geographical association of like Deep East Oakland, that's Black, or that's Black and brown, right? Like there's different places in Oakland we associate with different people because of the legacies of segregation. And so when when we put out the map, many people, like you said, they started, oh, well, they're going to the sideshow, or these folks don't want to wear masks. And so it is an interesting balance of wanting to provide information, but knowing when like people can take this data and then they can spin a narrative, to say a whole bunch of stuff like, oh, okay, well, it's all these Black people with COVID-19. That's because their behaviors, they don't take care of their health, et cetera, et cetera. So I appreciate you bringing up the point and just countering some of that narrative about, blaming it on the sideshows.
Right.
So I want to shift a little bit to just understand about what the work you've all been doing. Since Oakland Voices put out this map and people have been talking about what's going on, particularly with East Oakland, what's been some of the response of either elected or city officials? Like, what have they done?
Nothing. I mean, the mayor started that task force, on kind of like the race and equity response to COVID-19, which I believe there's a town hall, this Thursday?
Yeah, this Thursday evening.
It's this Thursday. So I think I haven't tuned into any other mayor's previous town halls, but I think I might definitely tune into this one to see kind of what the response is. But I mean, there are some good people on that task force. So I'm hoping at that table they are able to hold, all the appropriate parties, really accountable. We have seen testing. I think 2 new testing sites in East Oakland. One at Roots, and I believe one at Lifelong Medical Center over there, like 104th, I think, or close to 107th. So that was really good to see. And the Roots walk-in drive-through test center is no barrier. You don't have to have symptoms. You don't have, you just want to be tested, and it's free. Roots has two locations, but the testing site is on their 99th Avenue in East 14th location. And that's right, in the heart of Deep East Oakland. So I'm really glad to see that. And then, the city brought their FEMA trailer program online. Well, I believe was a little over, or between 50 to 75 trailers. They are, rapidly working to get unhoused folks, in there. So we have, I guess I shouldn't say nothing, but I'm very critical of the city. But the city is doing some things, but it's really, and when it comes to critiquing the city, is about how swift their response is, and is it to scale to actually meet the needs and the demands of the community. That's kind of the measurements that I use when it comes to analyzing city efforts.
Yeah. And so you mentioned the city, but a lot of at least with the COVID-19 data, the shelter in place order, this is stuff that's come from the county. And so sometimes it seems like, county government is kind of sneaks in there with stuff. Like today, the Alameda County Board of Supervisors met, and the sheriff is trying to get like over $100 million for some expansion of Santa Rita Jail. So I'm interested, are there any connections that you've all made, or any demands that folks that you know of have made of Alameda County?
Yes, so the same demands that we have for Oakland, we have for Alameda County. You have to follow the money. And the county does have more money. I know when it comes to organizing, sometimes the county gets overlooked because we are so worried about what the city is and isn't doing. But we also have to we do have to apply the same amount of pressure to the county. And yes, you are absolutely correct. The county is the driver and one of the funders, other than the state, when it comes to the COVID-19 response. So we have been putting pressure, for example, on the county to, commandeer more hotel rooms, but that's also not letting the mayor of Oakland off the hook, that she could do the same thing. The city of Oakland and the county of Alameda can work better together, to get things done faster. And in this case, I know for us, like getting the hotel rooms online to provide emergency and temporary shelter for our unhoused brothers and sisters, there was a lot of red tape and a lot of delay coming from the state, So a lot of us did debate, was like, okay, now do we need to turn our attention to Governor Newsom? He can tell me these press conferences every few weeks, and making these huge announcements with these grand plans. Okay, so now let's get to work, and let's actually, but at the state level, the state's kind of like, we'll give you the money, and it's up to the county to decide, and it's up to the counties, okay, to actually work with the cities to actually to finalize the logistics and make things happen.
All right, right on. Thank you. So y'all are listening to Candace Elder, East Oakland Collective, giving us that one-on-one of California government and what's been going on. I have just one more question, then I want to actually open it up to a couple of the Oakland Voices alumni correspondents if folks have any questions. But first, I just actually want to, I didn't get a chance earlier to recognize my colleague, Momo Chang with Oakland Voices, also on the line. And so a couple weeks ago, there were two volunteers with the Village at Oakland that ended up being arrested in the East Oakland parking lot. And it's made some headlines, two unhoused folks or folks volunteering with unhoused residents, volunteering during the epidemic being arrested. Can you tell us a little bit about the incident and some of the stuff that's happened since that time?
So 3 village outreach workers were there on their way to meet with me at my office on 78th and MacArthur. They were followed by police from like 106 all the way to my office on 78th. Sorry, my dog is barking at somebody out the window. Lady.
No, so East Oakland security.
Yeah. So they had tailed them 20 cities, almost 20 city blocks. Could have pulled them over at any point, but they didn't. They waited until they got into my parking lot to pull them over. Took out the driver. Yana Johnson handcuffed her without telling her why she was being pulled out the car, or why she was being handcuffed. Aki, he was a passenger He had tasers and guns drawn on him. There was 7 cop cars filled my office parking lot, blocked the street. There was a helicopter, circling over my office. They were calling Aki by the wrong name, all that stuff. And, if it wasn't for the fact that I was there, Nita B, lead organizer with the village, she was there, and that we were videotaping and that we were questioning the officers, yelling at them, demanding that they stop and actually tell us why these 2 unhoused outreach workers who had just finished doing essential business, distributing food, getting hotel rooms for fellow unhoused folks, why they had been pulled over. We think that the police would have responded way differently than they did. They already used, I think, an excessive amount of force and violated rules and was in complete disregard, I think, for some of their rights. But it's because, they threatened to tase this guy like 4 or 5 times if he did not step out the car. So finally they reached in, unbuckled his seatbelt and just dragged him, pinned him to the ground, and then detained him. And it was then that they asked for his ID and that they realized they had the wrong person. But unfortunately, he had some one outstanding warrant, I think for a failure to appear or something. And he was on probation. So they did arrest him, but they released him the next day. But the crazy part is it wasn't until that they pulled off with him that they pulled the rest of us to the side and said, now we are going to tell you why this vehicle and these 2 people were pulled over. And there was a violent crime somewhere in the area. And the classic racial profiling story, okay, the passenger, this black man, matched the description of the suspect. I did receive I did receive a call from the deputy chief of police later on that evening, and he apologized for the actions of his officers and for the mistaken identity. And he said that he saw the video. So the 3 Facebook videos we shot did go viral, and we received an overwhelming just level of support. Barbara Lee's office contacted me that weekend. Several council members, our district council member, Lauren Taylor, did come down immediately to my office. Councilmember McElhaney called me. Regina Jackson, chair of the Oakland Police Commission, contacted me. The village and Ayanna and Aki did file a formal police complaint. And we had a press conference, had some media coverage. We were offered therapy, so all 4 of us are receiving counseling right now, and we are particularly concerned about the traumatic impact this has had on Yana and Aki. So we are still uplifting and supporting them in their wishes and demands.
Thank you for sharing that. Sorry y'all dealt with that. So with that, I want to just open it up to folks that are on the line to see if anyone has any questions amongst the Open Voices alumni and correspondents. And then, I think I know everybody on the line, so we might be able to open up a little wider than that. So if you can either if you can raise your hand on that chat feature or something.
There's no hand raising on this chat.
Oh, okay. Amila, how did you unmute yourself? So one of our amazing correspondents, Amila Elamine.
You said, how did I unmute myself? Sorry.
No, of course you would be able to hack that. Go ahead.
That is hilarious. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Candace. Thank you for your time and for your work in the east of the O. But one of the things that I want to address, and I guess they call it devil's advocate, so to speak, because I am concerned about my people, because the people that I see that's hanging out, to be honest, the unhoused people seem like they're trying to do social distancing, honestly, like they're not, I don't see the congregation. Where I do see congregation is our younger people who probably live with their grandmothers or their elder parents who are just hanging out. You know what I mean? And I live in East Oakland. I drive down Bancroft all the time, and I'm seeing this the passing of the blunts. I mean, literally, I'm watching them pass blunts one to the other, and I just want to know, like, how are we up in their awareness on how important it is for them, because maybe it won't phase them, and maybe if they get it, they won't get sick. But most of them don't have their own places. Most of them, as you said earlier, are in multi-generational homes. And so how do we get the message to them that it's very important that COVID-19 is real, that there are people testing that we know positive, that for me, one of the people in the high street at Excel is someone that I visit on a regular basis that passed away from COVID. You know what I mean? And so, like, how do we make them more aware and more accountable for the lack of social distancing that is happening and the effect that it may have on those who are vulnerable?
Thank you for raising that question, because I think, instead of tearing our folks apart about what they are not doing, we need to get out there and educate. I think education is key. There are folks who hang out on the block by my office, all the time, and I tell them, I say, you better not be sharing that alcohol bottle. Yeah, you better not be sharing that blunt. And I say, here's a mask, here's some hand sanitizer. I will yell out the window as I'm driving down Mac, Bancroft, 73rd, et cetera, be like, 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And over time, having that constant reminder, and also being able to hand somebody, okay, here's a mask. Do you need more? Do you need some hand sanitizer? Has worked. So now the guys on my block, who they hang out, they may not be 6 feet apart all the time, but they have a mask on. And now and I said, it took weeks to really, for me, staying on them and getting on them. But then now they come to me and said, do you have any more masks? I'm out. Or mine is dirty. I can't no longer wash it, anymore, and now they're at the point, they want gloves, everything, but it took a while. I'm a part of some COVID-19 response groups, but particularly with Black folks, and they're like, folks are thinking about renting a truck and driving around.
Flatbed.
Renting a flatbed truck and just and passing out masks, but then also with a loudspeaker and being like, social distance, put your mask on, here's some gloves. Like, I think we got to go, we got to do new ways, and we got to crap, we got to show some tough love with our folks in order to kind of get them to see, because a lot of people, they're like, as long as they don't know anyone who tested positive, they're kind of just like out of sight, out of mind. And we love our conspiracy theories, and most of the time we are right, but still this having a conspiracy about this doesn't equate to the fact that people are dying still.
Right.
So you can have a conspiracy theory all you want to, but the numbers are real, and then you can be asymptomatic and so you not know you have it, not have any symptoms, and still passing it on to other people, and it will affect the next person differently, and I'm like, for our folks, particular unhoused folks who use drugs and stuff like that, we gotta tell them, don't share needles. I mean, you still gotta worry about other stuff that you can get from, needle sharing. But like, if you didn't care then, please, care now, So it's really tough love getting that message out there. And then also, I hate to say it, it's coming with some more fashionable masks. So I'm glad to see that we got some other designs that could like resonate with the young people. So maybe they want Oaktown across their face. Or I seen one with the Black Panther on it. You know, it said Oakland 1966. Even I want one of those, you know. So it's kind of like we gotta think outside the box, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's excellent. And I actually have a bullhorn, and I'm gonna put it in my car, and I'm gonna sweep it. I'm saying, because like I don't want to offend people, but it's like, y'all, come on, yo, you know what I mean? Like, back that thing up, you know?
Yeah, I definitely do assist. You know, like I one week I saw there was some type of party happening on like 98th and Mac. And there was just tons and tons of people going into this one house. I don't know what it was, but I was at my window like, what are y'all doing? You know, I'm like 6 feet apart, you know, like, why? I had, you know, so I was talking back and forth, trying to figure out what's going on and what do you guys, you know, just tell them you guys putting yourself at risk. You know, you shouldn't be going into this party or whatever is going on in there. I don't know if they give me something for free. I don't know, but, you know, so.
Yes. So I want to pass it over to one of our other alumni, Aquila Lewis.
Hey Candace, how you doing? Good to see you. Really proud of you and the organization. I was just listening to the part about the leadership. I get really, I try not to be too upset, but I do get upset when I don't really see what I feel like a leader should be doing. A lot of folks voted in the leadership in Oakland, and it just really seems like some of them, most of them, the ones that should be stepping up the game really aren't. And like, I think the only thing that I saw that that the mayor maybe did or said was when they were trying to open up the different parts, I think it was of East Oakland, trying to get people to do some exercising or something like that. Can you share a little bit about that and if that really was effective?
Now, are you referring to the Slow Streets project?
Yeah. I was kind of, I saw that mostly through Facebook. I'm not really hearing anything else happening. And I wanted to know like what was, if that really did happen, and if people in East Oakland were affected because of that, of COVID.
Yeah, thank you, Aquila.
I don't know why they closed down some of our streets. I was actually disturbed by it. I'm like, why you close down Arthur? You know, so between 73rd all the way to 106, I'm just like, you know, not to say that Black folks don't bike and exercise, because we do. But, you know, I said, what's the real reason why you closed down some of the streets in the flatlands? And I noticed that, particularly along the streets off 73rd, because I'm always down there, that there was heavy police presence, you know, I think leading up to the closures of those streets. So I feel like there was heavy police monitoring, you know, so what did that have to do with it? I honestly think, you know, there's some other intentions far as closing down some East and West Oakland streets than versus them closing down something in Temescal, you know, or on Telegraph or something. So I actually called the city and they said, you know, ask them who did they engage with to determine about which street should be closed, because you sure in the hell didn't call East Oakland Collective. You know, and community engagement is one of the main things that we do. So they apologized and they said they did not consult with anyone before they decided to close these streets. And I said, yeah, because you certainly didn't consult with a lot of us who do work with you guys to do community engagement. And that means you certainly didn't consult with the residents, you know, who are going to be impacted by these street closures. I haven't seen any difference in East Oakland about it being an inconvenience. You know, now sometimes some streets I can't deliver food to, you know, and so I said, if you're going to keep doing this, so a few of us got on the city about this, and we made them now have check-ins. So they check in with a group of us who do work in East Oakland, and then we also are helping to get out the survey. So the city has a survey. So before they add a street, there's like X amount of days of lead time, which is kind of like still not enough, but that the community can weigh in about a street closure before they actually decide to do it, you know. So I'm happy to share that survey link with Rashid, and maybe he can send it out to the alumni group. But you know, that's one examples of, you know, the city acting first without actually engaging and really asking the residents, is it something that they even want or need, and what impact will it really even make? You know, so on one hand, they're encouraging, don't be at the Lake Merritt, don't be out on the corner. But then on the other hand, they're closing down the streets so that you can be outside, you know, so.
Yeah, I want to thank you for sharing that. We got another question in the chat I'm going to get to in a second. You mentioned masks earlier and fashionable masks. We had a story on the Oakland Voices site by one of the alumni, Kat Fiera, who talked about some of the different mask making, creative mask making that's going on. And then to your point about the slow streets, Dr. Ayodele Nzenga, one of the alumni of the program, also wrote about some concerns that COVID-19 was an opportunity to implement slow streets, but the backdrop really being gentrification and increased policing of streets. And so just encourage folks to go to the site oaklandvoices.us and check that out. We got a C. Walker dialing in from 96 in Mac and asked, when you survey the current situation among unhoused folks, what supplies do you find are needed?
Hands down, masks, hand sanitizer, and gloves, you know. And we're talking about masks, whether they're surgical masks, whether they're N95, whether they're fabric masks and can be, you know, rinsed or washed, and because folks are living outside. So you can imagine if we house folks have to go extra steps to preserve our mask supply and to wash it a certain way and to take certain precautions so that we can reuse it again. Imagine if you're living outside and how hard that is to do if you don't have access, you know, to water or to wash them. So they go through masks quicker than we do. So we have been sourcing masks from anybody and everybody, and, you know, distributing that. So we can always take more donations of masks. Gloves are actually a limited supply right now, particularly size medium and large. And those are like the latex exam glove or the nitro glove or the latex or even latex free gloves. And drinking water containers, like the 5-gallon jugs. I've been also have on my Amazon wish list, and I know it's a controversy about whether to support Amazon on any given day, but it is what it is. And had 2.5 liter drinking waters. And so instead of, you know, impacting the environment with all these water bottles, you know, we are having water refilled, you know, and giving folks these big containers. And then either going to curbside communities and refilling it, or having it refilled off-site and then distributing them.
Yeah, thank you, Candace. And then just last question, just recognizing it's 8:02, and we said we just do an hour. You mentioned some of the things that, thank you for that question, C. Walker. Thank you for that really important question. Similarly, I want to ask just, what does East Oakland Collective need? How can people support the work that you all are doing?
So you can go to www.eastoaklandcollective.com, and on our very main page at the top, there is a description of our COVID-19 rapid and emergency response efforts, our distribution days, which are Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. We do take some limited volunteer help. and we can't have too many people in the office, but we definitely take more help as far as distribution. So if you have a car and then you're willing to distribute to curbside communities or to our seniors or low income families who need delivery, front door, delivery. We do that in the afternoon on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, as well as there's two GoFundMe campaigns to support, and that's to get two of our Black elders into housing, and then well, now they just got moved into the FEMA trailers. So now any money that's raised for them now will go to help them furnish the trailer and buy supplies. And then we're doing a mass and collective fundraiser to get more unhoused folks into hotel rooms at like a week at a time. And so far we have raised $40,000, and we have about 25 families and seniors in hotel rooms in East and West Oakland. And like, so the more money we raise, the more people we can get in hotel rooms as emergency shelter options so that they can shelter in place and also get a reprieve for being off the streets. So all that information is on our website.
Yeah, thank you. Is it possible to ask 2 more questions for your time?
Sure.
Great. So we just got a question in the chat from Brandy Collins, one of our recent graduates, now alumni, Oakland Voices. She wrote, you mentioned about finding a new way of doing things. How are you engaging the next generation and getting them involved?
I do have to admit we are heavily millennial based. So the age range that we engage is about 25 years old all the way to folks in their 50s. But we hope to one day expand to engage even more younger folks, where we do see the young generation engage with us is regarding homelessness. A lot of our young folks, I'm talking about even our
The babies. Yeah.
The babies want to know, Mom, Dad, how can I make a difference? I see this person on the street. I see this person at the bus stop. I see this person living on the tent, and it is breaking kids' hearts, and they want to make a difference. So we do engage with a lot of kids in our Feed the Hood program, which we had to suspend because of COVID-19 because it attracted too many people.
Yeah.
But we engage a lot of kids there. We do a lot of speaking engagements at schools. We do classroom projects. We actually take entire classrooms into encampments to meet unhoused leaders, to hear their stories. And they do small projects as far as making sandwiches and lunches, all the way to making bird boxes and planter boxes and having cleanup days. We work a lot with the high schools. We've done rites of passage projects with 5th graders entering into 6th grade. We've worked with Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. So I guess give us some credit. That I guess we do work with youth, but and then we've done really empowering youth, because a lot of them say, hey, I have an idea. I want to do showers, for the unhoused. I want to do this. And a lot of them are a lot of our students are using their senior projects, their class projects, their, Girl Scout or Boy Scout projects to see how can they make a dent in homelessness. And that's where we're engaging our youth.
Yeah, thank you. And then last question. So there's been a lot of policies that, I think have happened during the pandemic that perhaps would not have, happened otherwise. So like people have been calling for the cancellation of student debt. And so while it hasn't been canceled, folks don't have to pay until like September, 6-month reprieve. There's been more.
Did that pass?
Oh yes, that's in forbearance until September. So, you know, you keep paying on it if you want, but you won't be penalized if you don't.
My
So,
student loan been in forbearance since I graduated. They ain't get a dime out of me. But anyways,
that's one example of something some folks have been calling for, the moratoriums on evictions. Some incarcerated people have been released. So you're seeing some of these things that people have been calling for that have happened with or due to the pandemic. What are there any ideas or things that you would like to see during this pandemic or coming out of it to improve East Oakland or the world?
First off, I would like to see the continuance of some, really all of these measures and policies that have passed. In the work that I do, I have been fighting for a moratorium on sweeps, on encampment closures for years. So it took this many people dying, this many people possibly getting infected for the government to care. You know, it's completely mind-boggling. But I hope after this that our government looks at actually the positive impact these measures and policies actually had on the community, and that they look at their practices before COVID-19 and see how crazy that they were, and really reconsider. And there's a paradigm shift. One of my loved ones was released 41 days early from Santa Rita and showed up at my doorstep, and that's still, how a lot of our loved ones are coming home, so it's almost like, a lot of them, they didn't have to be there in the first place, so it's really, hopefully folks, look at the government, sort of look at the criminal justice system, and so we need data. So we actually need the researchers out here, like yesterday, looking at the data from the impact of these policies and measures, and then we could use that as ammo to say why these policies and measures should continue post-COVID, and what else I would like to see? I would like to see, a moratorium on market rate development in Oakland. I would like to see more mandates on affordable housing, particularly deeply affordable housing, more housing subsidies. Definitely want to see the rent moratoriums continue in some shape or form or fashion, particularly for those who can't afford it. I would like to see rent forgiveness, even, and maybe the government, find the funds to pay back, so that, because right now, your rent and mortgage might be on moratorium, but that amount is still up. Yeah, and then it's going to be due. So after this is over, it's going to be due. So I would like to see some type of forgiveness where the government actually steps in. So go beyond just sending a stimulus check, which wasn't enough for most of us, but actually, paying that back rent and that back mortgage that people might owe because of COVID-19 and job loss and stuff like that. So that is, some of the things I would like to see continue, and then some of the new policies and measures that I would like to see.
Yeah, thank you. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, speak with me, just share about the work that you're doing. And I don't have a sign off yet, but it's like,
Hey,
keep on pushing.
Never go wrong. Power to the people, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for folks, again, if you are not familiar with East Oakland Collective, eastoaklandcollective.com. And for folks interested in learning more about Oakland Voices, it's mainly Oakland Voices correspondence on the line, but you can go to oaklandvoices.us. That's OAKLANDVOICES.us. Thank y'all. Have a good night. Stay blessed.
Good night, everyone.